misfortune. Starting with page 1. The train whistled while two carefree figures met a short distance from the railroad crossing. Hello, Helen. What are you doing halfway out here? How is your father progressing with the oil well? Just fine, Alan. How are you? Where have you been keeping yourself lately? The train whistled again. It rang in their ears, cutting short his answer. With unexpected suddenness, a rending crash drowned out all other sound and violently shook the ground beneath their feet. Helen screamed, "Oh, Alan, the train has left the track. Let's go and see if we can help." They began to run, but their legs felt like they were having to be dragged along in slow motion in their effort to get to the train wreck. The dust and smoke ahead of them seemed a goal to be reached only by desperate and tireless effort. The roar of escaping team combined with the shouts of those just arriving and the screams of injured and trapped people made the whole scene one of complete confusion. Once there, Helen sped to the aid of a young woman lying on the ground with a baby folded tightly in her arms, while Alan moved to the assistance of a middle-aged man that was helplessly wedged under a table and debris that moments before was part of the dining car. With force of effort, Alan moved and twisted metal enough to free him from the debris, then lifted and pulled him through a nearby window to a safe place where he could rest comfortably away from the confusion, while the rescue attempt was in process. There were still many passengers trapped in the broken, twisted heaps of wood and metal left by the sudden derailment of the passenger train. Once settled, Alan turned his attention to Helen to see how she was doing in her efforts to keep the woman with the baby. He saw Helen sitting next to the cold, lifeless form of the mother, the baby cradled lovingly in her arms, her loving eyes gazing to the distance, as if envisioning the love, hope, and ambition that the unfortunate mother must have had for this little child. At that moment, Helen was distracted by a desperate call for help. He turned toward the train to listen so he could discover the direction of the call. To his relief, it was repeated, though weaker, but loud enough for him to be able to detect that the sound was coming from the other end of the dining car. He ran to a window, looking through, and saw no one inside. Instead, he heard heavy breathing coming from the pile of tables, chairs, table covers, dishes, and fixtures that were once the splendor of the modern dining car. He climbed through the window and looked around the tangled mess until he found the disheveled form of a respectably dressed, gray-haired elderly man with a cut just over his right eye. Quickly, Alan removed the debris that trapped the elderly man. His weak cry for help was attempted again, but now only amounted to a slight whisper. The man lapsed into unconsciousness by the time Alan worked his way through the debris to reach him. Then, with great effort, he carried the limp form to the window. Then, with care because of the badly injured chest and legs, lifted him through the window and settled him on the ground near Helen and the newly orphaned baby. Once he loosened the vest, tie, and belt to help him breathe more freely, he looked over at Helen, who was still sobbing. The impact of the whole situation brought a tremor to his voice as he spoke. "Helen, must get control of yourself. The baby needs your attention. Please, if the old gentleman comes to, take care of him. I will be back in a moment." Alan spoke over his shoulder as he ran to the front of the train, where the conductor was overseeing the care of the engineer and a couple other passengers. He wanted to find out if help had been called yet. The conductor assured him that the railroad authorities were working with the local police and fire departments. Aid was on its way. Confident that help would soon be there, he returned to check out the elderly man, who was now becoming conscious. His eyelids flickered as his eyes slowly opened. It looked like he was becoming partially aware of the situation and should be all right. Helen stopped sobbing when she heard the sounds of sirens. She stood up while still holding the baby to see if there was something she could do to help Alan aid the injured. A truck attended by a patrolman on a motorcycle came close to them and stopped. A man that appeared to be a doctor got out of the truck and joined the patrolman as they walked over to the woman whose baby Helen was holding in her arms. The doctor lifted her hand, felt for the pulse, but the feel of the cool flesh was answering up. He then nodded to the patrolman and started toward the first man Alan had taken from the wreck to evaluate his condition. Meanwhile, the patrolman began to look for something to identify the woman. Finding none, he turned her on her side to see if anything may have fallen beneath the body. He was unsuccessful, so he held the baby for Helen so she could aid in a closer search. she discovered his letter in the bosom of the dress. The patrolman looked over the letter for a moment, then walked over to and interrupted the doctor, who was just finishing with the patient, and said, "Say, Doc, this letter is from a hard-hearted old boy, even in this cruel old world of ours. Listen to this. Mrs. T. Crane, upon receiving your letter appealing for financial aid, I wish to call your attention to the fact that John was disinherited on the day of your wedding, which, as you know, was against my wishes. Please accept this as final. With respect, B.A. Craig." Yes, Bill, that letter is very cruel. But we find plenty of this these days. Give me a hand with bandaging this fellow. The doctor was helping the elderly gentleman and was having trouble holding him while bandaging the cut over his eye. At that time, Alan was searching for water in the coach ahead because he saw a man coming out of it with water in his hat. He already saw that the dining car was too badly crushed to still have any water left in it. Alan converted his own hat to hold water. When he arrived there, then he returned. He was able to offer the elderly man a drink, who relished the water, then showed his appreciation with a smile.